Okay, I think we're on. I hope everyone can see me and hear me okay. It is lovely to have you all with us today. My name is Stephanie. I will be your host for today's webinar, Emotional and Mental Well-Being During the Holiday Season. Before we get started with our question and answer portion of this webinar, I will introduce myself and my department here within Boston IVF. I will start with sort of a brief overview, and then we can just jump right into any questions that you all have about how to get through the holiday season, how to survive the holiday season while trying to conceive, while in active treatment, or whether you are in your season of waiting. And so, as I mentioned, my name is Stephanie. I'm one of two social workers here within Boston IVF, which is sort of a unique service that our clinic offers. Not every clinic has their own in-house social workers and therapists. Boston IVF has two. It is myself and my colleague, Dylan Everett. We are part of the Wellness Center within Boston IVF, and our roles, there's a lot of them. So partially, we do traditional therapy with individual patients or couples. We also host monthly support groups that cover a variety of different topics. And so if you're ever interested in connecting with other patients in the same clinic, please check out our support groups. We also provide psychoeducational consultation for any individuals or patients that are interested in learning more about or are pursuing the use of donor egg, donor sperm, donor embryo as part of their treatment. And so Dylan and I are licensed in Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. So we meet with patients in the greater part of New England. We hopefully will be working on getting our licenses in New York as well, so we can support those patients. But we are here really to kind of offer specialized and specific support while you're going through treatment. We are specialized in fertility social work. We know exactly what it means when patients say they're going through IUI and IVF. You don't have to sort of spend time educating us on what that looks like. You can then spend more time really talking about your experiences and sort of working on coping skills or decision making or just verbally processing what it entails to go through treatment. And so we're also happy to do this webinar to specifically talk about surviving the holidays. The holidays can be really hard for anyone. I know there is sometimes a lot of this expectation that it is this bright and light, magical time of year, but I think we all know that for everyone, that's not always the experience. And I think with the layer of trying to conceive or being in fertility treatments or in your season of waiting, the holidays can become even more complicated to navigate and to get through. And so what I always like to share with patients and partners is as you're entering the holiday season, it is okay to give yourself permission if you are not feeling like how you think you should be feeling or the expectation of what we should be feeling this time of year. It is okay to not feel as joyous and merry as maybe other people are, or what you see in movies and commercials and TV shows. It is okay to have a different experience this holiday season because you are carrying more, you are managing more. And so give yourselves the grace to sort of embrace how you're feeling and sort of letting yourself off the hook that you don't have to feel a certain way and that there's no expectation that you should feel one way or another, or that you have to show up in a certain way. You are allowed to show up as you are, given everything that you're going through right now. I also think it can be helpful to sort of give yourself the grace to allow your holiday season to look a little different this year. I know holidays for a lot of folks means reconnecting with old friends, spending more time with family, engaging in traditions. And that can be really hard, especially when you are maybe also managing taking injections and getting your blood work and going to do scans and waiting for testing results. That is a lot to carry. And then to sort of show up and spend a lot of time with family and maybe having to wonder what questions are they going to ask or what information am I willing to share? Are other people going to announce pregnancy? That is a lot of mental gymnastics to have to work around and carry. And so setting boundaries for the time and energy that you want to give into spending with family, friends, engaging in certain traditions, that's okay if it looks different this year in the spirit of sort of protecting your own peace and allowing yourself the permission to let it look different this year if you need it to. We'll go into sort of some of the questions and answers now, and I'll continue to share with you some of my thoughts on how to continue to survive this holiday season. Our first question here is, how can I better support my partner who is taking the brunt of the physical aspects of our fertility treatment? I think that's a really great and thoughtful question to ask. And so, first and foremost, I think as the partner who is not in fertility treatment, what can be helpful to the person that is going through fertility treatment is to even acknowledge that it looks really different for the two of you, to acknowledge that your partner who is going through fertility treatment is managing more. Their to-do list is long. And what can be a hard reality is you can't really share or split those responsibilities as the person that's going through fertility treatment, as the patient, just by the way that it's structured, right? Like you do have to take the injections. You are the one that is having to go and get scans and schedule blood work and talk to the pharmacy and call your insurance and talk to your nursing team. That to-do list is very, very long. And as the partner who's not going through treatment, your to-do list is oftentimes much shorter. And so there is this sort of inequity of responsibility there. And that isn't anyone's fault. Again, that's just sort of the reality of what it means to be in treatment. And so even acknowledging that in saying, like, I know you are doing more than I'm doing right now, that can feel really validating in just stating it, in acknowledging it. As the partner who's not going in through treatment, I think what can be helpful is asking the partner that is, what do you need from me to feel better supported? Is it better if I join you at appointments? Is it better if I do research alongside of you? Is it better if I'm here just to listen so that you can vent in a safe space? Or do you want me to help you with decision makings and figuring out solutions? I think it's okay to ask your partner who's going into treatment, what do you need? What is your version of good support? I think oftentimes what could be helpful too for the partner who isn't going through treatment is also recognizing that the world around you keeps going and you still need to maintain your home and your car, and you still need to get groceries, and things still need to be done sort of outside of fertility treatment. And maybe that is where you come in to take on those responsibilities, the things that you can take off of your partner's to-do list. So whether that's taking your partner's car for an oil change, or you do the Christmas gift shopping this year, or you manage the groceries, or you manage plans with family and friends, that can be helpful to take some of those non-related fertility tasks off of your partner's plate because, as we've mentioned, like they have enough going on. The next question is, how do I manage telling some family members what I'm going through and not others? I don't want to put them in a hard spot. And so I think when it comes to talking to family and friends about what you and your partner or you are going through with fertility treatments, sharing your experiences and having supportive people in your corner can be tremendously helpful in getting through this experience. Everyone needs support and everyone needs someone to lean on for comfort, for guidance. And so when it comes to sharing with certain family members and not others, it is okay to split it up. And this thought of putting, family members that do know in a hard spot, well, my thought is there is a difference between secrecy and privacy. You are entitled to your privacy, especially as you are going through medical treatment. And so if you decide to share with certain family members, part of your decision making and who you share with should also include, can this person honor and respect the information that I'm sharing with them? And can they keep it between us? Can they maintain the privacy and the boundary? If you think, yes, they can, that is a good person to share it with, in addition to if you think that they're going to be supportive to you. It is not really up to that person who you share with to share with anyone else. It is not their business to share. It's not their information to share. And it is okay to not want to share this with certain people that you may not share other private information with. You are allowed to maintain privacy. It does not have to be all or nothing. Part of maybe what that conversation looks like with the folks that you are sharing with is setting that boundary, the expectation that the information will stay between you and that person and not be shared with anyone else that you don't want to share it with. The next question is, what are some strategies for preparing to be around my nieces and nephews this holiday? I love them, but they can be overwhelming at this point. That is a really good question and often comes up a lot, as we talked about. This time of year is oftentimes where you're spending more time with your family or seeing family that maybe you don't see often throughout the year. For this, it is again about setting boundaries and knowing your own limits. For some patients, I would tell them, limit your time around your nieces and nephews. It is okay to maybe not show up how you did a year ago because you're dealing with more now. And so if it's too emotionally distressing, if it's too difficult to be around your nieces and nephews all day and all night, limit some of that time. Have a good sense of sort of where your limits and where your boundaries are. If you can only manage 2 or 3 hours, then you can only manage 2 or 3 hours. That's okay. You don't have to sort of push yourself past the limit of what you can manage right now. For other patients, they say that might be hard to not be able to see my nieces or nephews at all. And I certainly understand that. Again, limit your time when you can. If you can sort of put some space and not see them, you can sort of always replace that with sending a card, sending a gift, sending cookies or flowers, something that still says, I'm thinking of you, I care, although in this moment in time, I cannot be spending all of this time with you. It is too hard to manage. The next question is, my friend is going through IVF and I'm pregnant. What kind of advice can I give her to let her know I'm here for her without upsetting her? I think when it comes to supporting a friend who's in fertility treatment while you're pregnant, I think just sort of acknowledging that the relationship might be a little different. And that isn't because you've done anything wrong in conceiving or being pregnant, but for your friend who is also trying very hard to also be pregnant, it may just be really difficult to, outwardly kind of support you and be excited for you while she is also likely deeply hurting for herself. And two things can be true at once. You can be really excited for your friend who's pregnant, and you can be deeply sad for yourself that you are not there yet. What I would suggest is simply just saying that to your friend. I am here for you as you need me. And also sort of allowing her to tell you what she is willing to hear and support you through as you're pregnant. Your friend that is going through fertility treatment might not be the friend that you lean on for support throughout your own pregnancy. She may not want to hear, sort of what it's like to be pregnant, or about morning sickness, or about shopping for baby things, right? She just might not be your person to support you through that right now. Not because she doesn't want to, but just because it might be really hard to. And so if you are also asking, like, how do I tell her I'm pregnant? What I always recommend is that if she doesn't know already, I always recommend reaching out in a text message. I think that allows the person to receive the information independently on their own without having to receive it right in front of you or in a group setting, or for her to feel sort of surprised or taken aback by the information. When sharing with your friend that you're pregnant in a text message, they get to receive that by themselves, and they get to have their own feelings around it without having to sort of consider the audience. And so I think within that message, you might also say, there is no pressure to respond right away. I wanted to let you know, please know that I am still here thinking of you. I still want to support you as you are in your season of trying, but I understand if it, might take a couple of days for you to respond to me. There's no expectation. Please take this at your own pace, but know that I'm here whenever you're ready. And that really gives your friend then the opportunity to sort of have her feelings and reach out to you when she's ready. The next question is, my sister-in-law warned me she's going to announce her pregnancy at the Christmas party next weekend. How do I tell her I just can't be there? So for your sister-in-law, sounds like she has taken the advice that I often share folks, which is, if you are pregnant or planning on announcing, please tell your friends who are trying to conceive that ahead of time, separately, away from the group setting. Even with that sort of warning, right? It is okay as the person that's going through treatment to still say, and I still can't be there. That is okay. Truthfully, I would respond and say, thank you for letting me know ahead of time. I am happy for you, but I'm also dealing with my own feelings around this. I can't be there for that, but I do support you and I do still wish you well. I just cannot be there in that moment when you tell everyone else, just because of what it will do to me, how it will impact me. And it is okay. It's a boundary, it's a limit to sort of remove yourself from whatever may not serve you or support you as you are just trying to get through treatment and the holidays. Sending a card might be a nice alternative to that. Sending her a text message the day of might be a nice alternative to that. Sending flowers could be a nice alternative to that, but you certainly don't have to be there if you can't. And my thought is that if your sister-in-law sort of had the wherewithal to warn you ahead of time, part of me hopes and believes that she would be understanding of why you can't be there. The next question is, what is a good comeback for when will you have kids? I think it sort of depends on who you are as a person. There's definitely a good couple of comebacks that you can have ready, have prepared for when people might be asking you about your own family building. I would have some of those answers prepared in your back pocket so that you don't have to think of it on the spot. A good response for when will you have kids is I'll let you know when I know, right? When I have something to report, I'll be sure to let you know. The other question, or I guess the other response you could have, right, is, you could say something kind of snarky. I'm a big fan of that. I think when will you have kids is such a personal and private question that if someone feels sort of brazen enough to ask you, I think you can be just as brazen in your response to sort of set that limit that that's a private question. And so when will you have kids? I'll let you know when I know can be a really helpful response. Or you can say, why do you ask? Right? That can sometimes be a way to prompt somebody in terms of like, why are you asking this question? Is it to be supportive? Is it to be nosy? That can be a helpful way to sort of suss out what the intent is of the question. Sometimes you might want to say, like, we're trying, we are working on it. Other times you can also say, that's none of your business. That's something that's between me and my partner, right? You'll know when there's something to report. I think it's okay to really be clear and setting boundaries around what is an appropriate question to ask, especially around the holidays or especially in a group setting, and what is not an appropriate question to ask. I think sometimes too, just setting the expectation that like you are also here at an event, at a gathering to enjoy yourself, to be with family, to participate in the holidays. I think it's okay to say like, I'm really just here to enjoy the day. I don't feel like talking about that right now. That's also a really appropriate response, right? You are also allowed to enjoy time with your family without having to like answer deeply personal and private questions. You can set the boundary of like, I am here to be with my family and enjoy our time today. I'm not here to tell you what's going on with my uterus and my family building plans. Not appropriate. The next question is, I just really thought this holiday season was going to look different this year. How do I handle the disappointment and how do I try to plan for the new year with hope? Part of this time of the year with the new year coming is that it can be such a reminder of the time that has passed and the expectation of how things were going to look different this year. And so I think it's okay to also acknowledge the disappointment in that this year maybe did not look how you expected it to. And there is really natural grief in that, the loss of expectations, or even the loss of what feels like time and hope. How to plan for the new year with hope. I think this can also be a really good time of year to practice sort of cultivating gratitude, and not in a way to minimize the struggles of what this past year has brought, but in an effort to sort of balance the struggles of fertility treatment with the things that you still feel grateful for, whether that's a loving family or a loving partner or a stable, happy home, um, stable income, stable source of food, um, grateful to be able to experience, a good cup of coffee, sunsets, sunrises. Cultivating gratitude can be really helpful in sort of cultivating hope and also balancing, right? That there are still things to be grateful for, even in the face of adversity. And so, additionally, with that, there is a lot to be said about creating sort of like affirmations and mantras, things that you tell yourself either right when you wake up in the morning to help set the tone for the day, or things that you kind of review at night before you're going to bed. Those can be two really great times of sort of jotting down things that you feel grateful for, or repeating to yourself mantras or affirmations that make you feel safe, make you feel sort of hopeful. And so mantras can look a million different ways. Some mantras that I think can be helpful is reassuring yourself, like, I am strong, I am capable, I am safe, I am deserving, right? Whatever kind of feels sort of uplifting. And then, of course, just sort of reviewing the gratitude piece of things can be helpful in maintaining hope. And I think with hope too, even if patients are not feeling hopeful, I always like to point out that even just moving forward with meeting with your doctors and going and doing blood work and ultrasounds and taking medications, like those are all acts of hope, right? And so even just doing the action, like those are acts of hope. And I think that can be helpful to hold on to, especially if you are not feeling as hopeful as you once did. The next question is, how can I book an appointment? Do I have to be a patient? I'm assuming this is, how do I book an appointment with either myself or my colleague through the wellness center? And so the answer to that is that you do have to be a patient within the Boston IVF network. And if you are, then you would reach out to the wellness center. Our number is 781 434 6578. You would speak to our admin, let them know you'd like to meet with either myself or my colleague Dylan. We will verify your insurance to let you know if it is accepted, and then we will move forward with scheduling an appointment at your convenience. And so if you are a patient, it's a pretty straightforward process. The next question is, how do I know if I can benefit from psychological counseling? I think you have to come have a session and sort of see how you feel afterwards. As I mentioned in the beginning, our therapy sessions are either individual or couples. We often can sometimes do a mix of both, depending on what's most relevant and coming up. And we can sort of figure out together what you're looking for in therapy. Again, whether that's just a safe place to verbally process with someone that really understands all of the nuances that go into IVF, that's a great reason to come to therapy. If it is to figure out other coping skills, what are other things that may be helpful, we can explore those together. If it is to help you with decision making, we can also sort of talk through all of that. We provide education. And so I think that all IVF patients could benefit from support in this way. This process is inherently stressful. And then oftentimes people will tell you, but try not to stress out. And it's impossible. This process is inherently stressful. And so I think to have someone else who specializes in this field, who specializes in mental health, is never a harmful thing. It can only help. And I don't want to sell therapy as sort of this magic wand and we will magically make everything feel better or be better. But I think one of the goals of therapy is just to feel more supported and hopefully um, have your experience feel a little less jarring, right? Just having the support of someone who really understands what you're going through, because it can be hard to lean on family and friends who maybe have no idea of what this is like truly. And so come schedule an appointment. If you meet with one of us and you love it, come back. If you meet with us once and you decide it's not really for you, no harm, no foul. It's okay. There's definitely different flavors of support, and everyone just needs to figure out like what's your flavor, what works for you. It's definitely not a one size fits all approach. Our next question is, are there any in-person groups? Unfortunately, there are not. We are finding that it is just easier for folks to access the groups virtually from home, given their work schedules. However, if we see that there's sort of a need and a desire and a want for in-person groups, that's definitely something we can revisit in the future. But for now, all of our groups will be virtual. They typically take place during lunch hour. We try to catch people in the middle of the day. So whether that's 12 to 1 or 1 to 2. And so we will update our list, our calendar for the year of 2026, that will have all of the different topics that we talk about. And if you find a topic that feels relevant or interesting, sign up and we'll see you there. Our next question is, I'm going to have my pregnancy test at the end of my 2-week wait, literally right before Christmas. How can I try to prep for that outcome? That can be really tricky timing. And so my suggestion would be to have a plan A and a plan B. If you go and have your beta test and the results are reassuring and promising, then sort of have a plan for then what you'll sort of do or what that day will look like, whether that's, you are up to seeing family and friends, right? You sort of have that plan laid out. If you go and you do your beta test and the results are disappointing, then you have a separate plan for that, right? What will then that day look like? Do you then plan for something different? Would you prefer to not engage with family and friends? Would you prefer to just do something independently or with your partner? I think it's okay to sort of have two plans for the two different outcomes, and then just allowing yourself to do whatever feels best for you that day. It's really about taking care of yourself first and foremost. Anything outside of that is not the priority. You are the priority. And so talk to your partner and kind of figure out like what are your two plans for the day, depending on what the outcome is. The next question is, how long is the hormone crash after a failed cycle? So we know that it can be different for everyone, right? Folks kind of absorb and metabolize and have different side effects from hormone medications. And so sometimes the crash is a few days to a week, and sometimes the crash feels like a couple weeks. And so if this is your first cycle and sort of your first experience with it, again, I wouldn't set any expectations on yourself of when you should feel like yourself or when you should feel better. I would focus more on self-care and how do you care for yourself as your body is sort of working through these extra hormones, as it's working to getting back to its baseline. And so if that's putting more rest into your schedule, rest. If it's to sort of surround yourself with people to be social, then create plans. If it is to do more of like a daily check-in with yourself, how am I feeling today? What am I thinking today? What are my physical symptoms? You can sort of start even journaling to see if you are sort of noticing any trends in your behavior. That can just be indicative of like, my body is still working through these hormones, and I just want to sort of check in with myself around how I'm feeling. Um, the crash, I will say, can be significant for folks and less significant for others. And so leave a lot of room for how you're feeling. These hormones are intense, they are a lot. Um, Especially the progesterone, we know can be pretty intense also. And so leave a lot of room for how you're feeling and give yourself a lot of grace. You know, you are allowed to not feel like yourself. Most importantly, figure out times that you can work in that self care to handle yourself with gentleness. My next appointment is in 6 weeks to go over next steps. It feels so far away. How do you cope with waiting around and checking days off the calendar? Yeah. The waiting the waiting and the lack of control is really difficult to manage. And so that is a normal part of this process, even if it feels really abnormal. 6 weeks, or just time in general, um, time is a construct. And so we know that sometimes, the weekend before can feel like a month ago. We know that when Christmas comes around, it's like, how is it Christmas already? Didn't we just do this? So time can get very warped very easily. 6 weeks will come and go. I think the only thing that can be really helpful for patients as you're waiting is to do whatever you can to make the time feel like it's going faster. Part of what can be helpful with that is distraction, creating plans, being busy, having things to look forward to. And so, whether that's creating plans with friends or family or your partner, have things throughout the weeks that you're looking forward to. That will sort of help the time feel like it's moving faster. So, whether that's sort of making dinner plans or making self care plans or taking a quick day trip or an overnight trip somewhere, that can be helpful to have other things to sort of focus on and plan for. And hopefully, you will find that that 6 weeks will not feel as long as you're anticipating it to feel. Other sort of tips and tricks and suggestions to consider for the holiday season. I wrote down a little list to share with you all. And so when it comes to sort of holidays and gatherings, I think it can be always really helpful with your partner, if you have a partner, is to, one, come up with some of those like pre-rehearsed answers to questions that you maybe suspect family might ask. Talking to your partner ahead of time about being on the same page around how much information you are sharing with family and friends, if anything. Just wanting to make sure that one partner isn't sharing more than the other is comfortable with, and vice versa. I also think that sometimes you don't know how you're going to feel until you're in the moment. And so creating somewhat of an exit plan or an escape plan if you're starting to feel really anxious, really overwhelmed, can be really helpful. And so sort of figuring that out with your partner, like, are we taking separate cars so that we can leave when we're ready? Or are we creating kind of like a code word that, when either one of us are feeling anxious, if we say the code word or text the other the code word, like that is our sign that we are getting our coats, we're wrapping up, we're getting ready to leave. I think that can be sort of really helpful so that you just have this plan in place that doesn't really necessitate like a lot of conversation in real time. It can just be agreed upon, like we are leaving now. When it comes to sort of spending a lot of time with family, if you feel like your limit is less than this year, you can always show up late. You can always leave early. You don't have to stay for the whole gathering. You can also say no. Thank you, but no thank you. We're creating our own traditions this year, or we're doing things a little differently this year. But thanks for the invite. Maybe we can do this next year. It is okay to do less when you are managing more. And so this is an okay time to also like be selfish and think about yourself. Even though I know there's so much expectation to like participate in traditions and be with family and friends, this is just sort of a season in your life, and you just need to manage it a little differently if you need more time, more independence, more space, just to get through it. Okay. The other things that I often think can be really helpful is taking a break from social media. This is a really good time of year to sort of like disconnect from social media, not having to expose yourself to pregnancy announcements and baby announcements and family photos and coordinated pajama pictures and all of those things, right? This is a great time of year to sort of like disconnect and focus on yourself and your partner and your family. Also, I think when it comes to getting Christmas cards mailed to you at home, it can be really hard to sort of hang them all around if you're seeing Christmas cards of big family photos. And so my recommendation is to not hang them up. You don't even have to open them. You can throw them out. No one will know. And it can just be a nice way to sort of save yourself from having to be like constantly exposed to other people who are announcing pregnancies or sort of like, showcasing their family or, letters of year in review. You have enough to think about. You don't really need to be like taking in more of that, especially when it doesn't feel helpful. Okay. I think that is the end of our questions. If no one has any other questions, then I just want to thank all of you for joining today. Please keep us in mind if individual or couples counseling seems helpful. One thing to also know is that myself and my colleague, we are hosting a holidays support group that is next week on December 9th. It is at 12 p.m. If you are interested in registering, I believe there's a link. Click on that link, register, we'll send you a Zoom link, and it can be a great opportunity to actually meet other patients with shared similar experiences. And so if you sort of liked what you heard today, there's more to come. Other than that, I wish you all a safe and happy holiday season, sending love to all of you. And